what we're really doing is inviting people to get involved as a community of caring Canadians who want to help strengthen our culture and our level of thinking to create a better country.
The thing is, it starts there. It starts with the individual taking complete ownership, understanding their values. That's one thing I find is if you don't know why you feel the way you feel, you should find out why.
People want to know what's going on in the country. They can come to Return to Reason and trust that we're going to be chasing down the truth.
Canada, our nation's future, something we all care about. If you have seen the changes in society and are concerned about where people's values are headed, you need to stay tuned to this important program today. Join us as we discuss what's at the root cause of these cultural shifts, and more importantly, what role truth-driven media and you, the citizen, can do to influence Canada for the good. If you have a heart for Canada to return to reason, you're in the right place. On location from the heart of Western Canada, this is Return to Reason. The best is yet to come.
Hey, well, welcome everyone. So glad you guys are joining us today. I'm here with some great friends, great colleagues. We're going to be introducing to you the future of Return to Reason and all the things that we have going on to really help the nation of Canada go forward and pursue truth and find reason in all our different areas. But I'm here with Jeremy and I'm here with David, great friends. Maybe David, introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, thank you, David. It's great to be here with you and Jeremy. I'm David Leis, and I'm the host of the program Leaders on the Frontier, and I work with the Frontier Center for Public Policy. I work as their vice president, and just really delighted to be part of this wonderful family of programming.
Yeah, and as you know, you and I host Return to Reason together. Always been involved in television, had a huge passion for it. I've produced a number of programs and edited and shot and done everything television-wise, and now into more of a management leadership role in that. But
and then our new program, Citizen,
CTZN.
Citizen, it's still a pilot test mode, but we're pumped for that to come.
It's a lot of fun,
as well,
the future's bright for that too. It'll be great.
I should say also shout out to Hayden Block, downtown Calgary. Thank you so much. It's a restaurant barbecue joint. If you're ever in downtown Calgary, come grab a bite here. Awesome food. They're kind enough to let us film in their location. So, anyways, guys.
Yeah, in Return to Reason with Leon, one of the things that was such a huge milestone in the journey of it, because I think Return to Reason started in 2021, and then Leon sent us out to Ottawa, and that became, Leon was already on fire for the idea of Return to Reason, but for me, it really just put a fire in my belly, because it was just such a moment in our country where at first hand you and I could see truth being warped. Like with our very eyes. It was crazy. And so in this journey of Return to Reason, I knew right then and there that we're going to be creating content going forward that has to get the citizens involved.
Absolutely.
David, tell us a bit about your program. I think I want to clarify something first, because Return to Reason is known as a TV program right now. Leon was the host and started that program and has had just great reaction from people, and chasing topics that are passionate to him, but trying to get truth out to people so they can decipher and understand what's going on. Since Leon's passing in November, you and I have been filling in, taking over Return to Reason for the last 6-7 months. But we're going to be evolving into some new programming. Return to Reason has moved more into a banner that is, I guess, a gathering point of multiple programs, which, David, you've got one. Maybe tell us about Leaders on the Frontier and how that got rolling.
Well, Leaders really came out of a desire. Like, I come out of a public policy think tank called the Frontier Center for Public Policy. And we're really all about trying to look at the evidence, the facts of issues, and trying to recommend good ideas to make a better tomorrow. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but
but it's so good.
It's very, very important to do that more than ever, because there's always this spin that persons in political power are doing to kind of manipulate people, if I can be so blunt. So you need a lot of discernment. Like, what are the facts of an issue? How do you recommend solutions that actually serve Canadians is really the question. And so, I mean, it's just a remarkable story how I personally, I met your parents literally on a plane.
On an airplane.
That's how it was.
I don't know how, but it happened. I was the last seat
a funny
in
story
that plane.
funny story about that too is the way my dad recounts the story is that he hates talking to people on airplanes. he goes, and for some reason you and him clicked.
And this guy just wouldn't stop
and
talking.
then I get a text.
Just kidding.
I get a text from my dad saying, "You got to connect with this because I think you have a lot of synergies."
Yeah.
We missed each other for maybe 6-7 months, just whatever, didn't connect and all that. And then I connected you with Leon.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then you guys just hit it off for just pretty cool.
You hit it off extremely well. Like I remember Leon raving after you guys met and just realizing like this is a man that's going to be a part of our future.
Well, it was such an honor. So I think there's sometimes a mystery in life, and this has come together, and it's like the moniker "Return to Reason" is such a powerful call to everybody, and it's just an honor to help serve the audience and with information and insights and wisdom, and say, hey, look, this is the situation, and this is the insight. Now, what do you think? And inviting people to do something about it, whether it's sharing it with a friend or a conversation. I think citizens in some ways have never been so weak in this country, but also paradoxically so powerful. Because a lot of government just follows kind of a communication spin. It's not about the policy. So if citizens
Whoever's
speak
got the
up,
loudest voice.
it makes a huge difference.
I think also, just so our audience knows, is that we're actually filming at a good friends of ours restaurant. They got several restaurants here in downtown Calgary. This is called Hayden Block. So if you guys are hearing, they're hearing different noises and stuff going on.
A fantastic menu.
There's people eating a bunch of barbecue stuff downstairs. So I just want to throw a shout out to them. Thank you so much to letting us being used here. If you're in Calgary, downtown Calgary, check out Hayden Block. Great barbecue joint. So anyways, wanted to throw that one in there as well, just so people know where are these guys sitting at. So
you know, one of the biggest things for me was when I was I think you guys could probably relate. When I was growing up, I was just all about me, selfish kid, teenager. What are you going to do after you graduate? But when I became a dad, it changed everything for me. And we're all dads. Like all three of us are dads here, and it causes you to think different about the future of your nation and like. Policy, when people said policy, I didn't know what that meant in high school. Policy, what are we talking about? Is that just when I walk into a building, what's the policy for the store? But our nation forms policies that will affect my kids and their future and their freedoms. And if they're going to have freedoms that maybe they never even knew they had, it's our job to not only protect them, but teach our kids and go to the next generation.
Well said.
If you think of Psalms, I believe it's Psalms 145:4. That's where it actually the psalmist declares that one generation shall declare his works to the next, and that's something. God's a generational God. I believe that if we're not thinking that way about what are we leaving, what are we doing with the lives that we have, are we speaking up, are we letting our voices and our morals and our Christian beliefs guide us and lead us? If we're not doing that, then we're not leaving a legacy behind for our kids and our grandkids, and that's, I think, of the utmost important. Being a recent father as well, is I think I view almost everything now through the lens of what's my son Gabriel going to be walking through?
Yeah, you're right on.
What's going to come his way? But
we're really, I happen to be a person of Christian faith as well. Like Frontier's not Christian per se, although many people that are in it are of a Christian background. But it's very significant. If you look at Western civilization, we'd say that many of the key foundations of our Western civilization are based on Judeo-Christian values. Like the rule of law, the desire to be able to look at evidence things. You know, you don't just make claims, you base them on facts. So we are called in every generation to renew our minds, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely we are. I think just to bring some also clarity, because Return to Reason, as we mentioned, we established Leon's pet project. He loved it, he grew with it, and that's now moving to a banner. We've got several programs that's underneath this Return to Reason banner that we're rolling out. And really, I guess the goal is what we're talking about of the why Return to Reason, why we want to build out different programs, different personalities, is so we can give different voices to a lot of different issues that are going on in our country. And the end goal really is to help our country continue down the path that we believe it was on and that we want to see it on. We want to see this country be a light to the world. We want to see it promote and strengthen and give a great place for its citizens to thrive. So the whole goal, you and I, Jared, let's talk about maybe ours just a little bit, because you and I have been doing some test pilots actually over the last couple of months of our program. So we're going to shift from Return to Reason into a program called Citizen. And really, you and I are just chasing ideas chasing
just
thoughts.
Free thought, debate, talk, conversation, wrestling. Like even during, I really enjoy it because like we have general things that you and I are passionate about, things that we love and wrestle with. But I actually enjoy the layout of it because we wrestle with the idea as it goes, and we kind of. It's a podcast. It's also, you can probably watch it on almost every platform. But it's this journey, and I'm really looking forward to the viewers' part in it when they can bring up topics and comments and reply and maybe even correct us. Like actually, in fact, correct us. please do.
No, we welcome that. We even play devil's advocate on each other at times because you're just trying to wrestle.
It's like the whole point.
And when people are watching this, our program hasn't yet aired, just to be clear. But like a couple days ago when we were recording, we talked a lot about the idea of socialism, but socialistic mindset maybe. Talked about traditional socialism as it is, if you look in Webster's, what's it defined as, but is that the same as what it is now? We tackle it, and then we just go off. It wasn't just that. I think we went on every
just whatever topic you could imagine. Because we even talk about education and what's being taught and the responsibility that those teachers have to the next generation, as we were just alluding to.
Because you and we're relatively younger guys as well, is that with this we know we're going to have an audience that is going to be, I would even say, your Gen Zs and maybe younger people, millennials, that are grappling with a lot of these questions. So that's the goal of Citizen, really, is to be able to give a voice to things that we don't have the answers. We don't claim to be experts. We don't claim to. We don't even have to come to a solution. It's more so we're just trying to navigate and think, these are the things that we're dealing with and struggling with, and we'll have people on the show. So that's one of them. Leighton Grey as well has got a program that's called Grey Matter.
Have you seen Grey Matter yet?
I am a husband, a father, a lawyer, a Christian, and a proud Canadian. I started this series because it was clear that our nation needs truth. Not just another biased narrative, but real information of substance. We need access to facts and the freedom to think for ourselves. I'm Leighton Grey, and this is Grey Matter.
The madness that has come upon us, this cultural Marxism, this lunacy, this big state authoritarianism, I don't like it, but I'm looking around for answers.
It's almost as if we sort of abandoned all the actual basis for objective truth or reason or all the things that our society are based on.
Our opposition is highly organized and united. So we need to get highly organized and united.
If you want to combat bad ideas, you don't suppress them. Well, actually, often by suppressing them, you draw attention to them.
You cannot reason with people who reject reason and evidence and logic.
Our opponents wish to divide us. We win if we can come back together and heal ourselves as a body.
Let's get thinking.
That's right. Grey Matter is just one of those fantastic series to join the Return to Reason lineup of programs that is made possible by viewers like you. It's refreshing content for Canadians who care. Join constitutional lawyer Leighton Grey on a journey of learning and thinking outside the box. Stay tuned to find out why generational citizenship is so vital for the health and strength of our nation. Return to Reason was a passion project for Leon Fontaine. It embodied knowledge and wisdom just like he did. The Return to Reason team will continue to build on the firm foundation he laid, reaching new heights, new audiences, and more Canadians with truth. More of Return to Reason. The best is yet to come, right now.
You know, to me, it seems like a really unique opportunity in this country. And I think of that whole vision, Jeremy, that you alluded to with Leon, like the name Return to Reason, is, you know, let us come together as a country and talk about these issues. I just marvel at how much it's like our country today is tone deaf. Like, we need to listen to each other and really try to understand what the other side is saying and do that in a respectful way. We don't need to call each other names. But I think that's a really great vision to build on, and that's what you're doing here. And you can't be a citizen today unless you have that free flow of information. And that's what a lot of parties, I would argue, are trying to undermine. No, you can't talk about that, or you can talk about this. Well, that's absurd. The Canadian tradition and principle as a national community is that we talk about issues, and we do that in a respectful way, and that's our duty as citizens. So I'm excited about that.
You know what, one take that, actually this came from Leon, because one thing we noticed through COVID that I noticed was if you disagreed, the response was not only to shut you up, but anger. Anger.
Wow.
Don't you dare disagree with me. And which is just so the opposite of a healthy democracy. You can't, like, the democracy functions off of thought, free speech, ideas, conversation.
Right.
And one of the things that Leon taught me actually was, look, the only reason, let's say we fully disagree. Pick the hottest topic during COVID, vaccinations. Let's say you're pro and I'm against. In that situation, one thing Leon would do all the time, and I think you could do this with just about any idea, is that you disarm the situation, realizing going, you're passionate because you want the best for you. I'm passionate because I want the best for me, and out of that's
an agreement.
We
You
both
agree on
want
that.
the best
Let's
for
figure out how to get there.
this situation. And if we approach conversations that way, it disarms your intensity, it disarms your emotion, and then you start to realize, okay, we're at two different viewpoints.
Well said.
Let's attack it.
It's even becoming to the point, though, of demonizing open conversation and difference of opinions. It's almost like you're getting this tribalistic view of, I only want to be in the groups that
and
think
that's
like
not
me.
by accident. For some, that's very intentional, is to take Canadians and divide them up and create hate. It's just
why?
It's so
Why do you
ironic.
think? In your
because
opinion?
it's how you gain political power, and that's been through history. And so in Canada, that's really not our tradition of doing that. Like, look at you. Everybody has traveled, and you know that Canadian culture. Like, I have yet to meet many Canadians that are not generally nice people. I'm not saying that we're perfect, because we're not, but Canadian culture tends to be very polite and caring. Like when you look at Canadians that we meet, it's amazing the generosity that people have. So why would you start vilifying Canadians? You should be uniting them together. That's the flag, the Canadian flag, that unites us. So that's what we should be doing as leaders. And if we can do that in the public conversation and help enrich that and create better unity and understanding, that's a great vision, because our country is worth it. It's not a country that just happened by accident, and we could lose it all in a generation if we don't watch it.
That's right.
And I don't mean to sound too overly dramatic, but it's true.
Is that it's a thin line that if you give a little bit, is that we've seen in history how countries that have been prosperous, on great paths, all of a sudden, in one generation or less, they've shifted to destruction. Might be a big term, but to the point where people are trying to flee that country and live elsewhere.
And it's interesting because as you know, I tend to live in the world of statistics, however you want to think about them. But the last 10 quarters in our economy, 9 of them are going down in terms of productivity. That's a problem. Now, productivity, why is that important? Well, because it's the foundation, ultimately, of our quality of life. If your economy isn't growing and prospering, but it's going backward, you have less choices, and that means a dimmer future for our next generation. That's a huge problem. So we got to grab a hold of a lot of issues, but we can only do it by working together.
Well, this isn't just theoretical. Some of the things we're talking about is, as you said, there are stats, there are lists that show, especially if you look at Canada's GDP per person in terms of where we're going, is that we are dropping on the list, and countries are surpassing us that you would think should never be passing Canada.
Like Australia is an example, way ahead of us, like 20%. It's remarkable.
And you look at Canada being still a leader in this world, a G7 country, and you look at what we are, is that those type of things are a reflection of what's happening. You know, Conrad Black a while ago said something interesting about the governments that we have, and he says, I think we have the governments that we deserve. And I
no.
You don't get what you deserve?
Yes, exactly.
And I wanted to go here because we've got duties as citizens, and I think a lot of people forget what it means to be a citizen, and the power and how that should empower people, because too often, I think, and this is what we talked a lot about this actually last week, about we have the traditional definition of socialism where you've got state-owned production and that type of thing, but there's this is me just free speaking about a kind of a new type of socialism in expansionary government and redistribution in a sense. And a lot of people, because of that, they start to look as myself, I'm not necessarily, they don't feel empowered as a citizen, they almost look to the government to dictate and tell them where to go, what to do, how to live. Here's your what you get type of thing. I think that mentality, if we're not careful, if it slips in too deep, then you're losing what it means to be a citizen and how the government should be beholden to the citizens. But that's what we hope to empower.
Yeah, sure. I really commend you, Jeremy and David, for having that vision around now citizenship, because I think in many ways that's a core challenge for us in our current democracy in Canada. And the history of citizenship goes back thousands of years. Yeah. And if you look at ancient Greece as an example, it's fascinating. There's different definitions of citizenship, but there's a sense that there was a middle that was healthy and independent and self-reliant. Yeah. They acted like adults. They had their own bits of land. They could grow their olives. They could participate in the democratic process. But at the other end, the very wealthy had their own agenda, and the very poor were also dependent on things. So, but you need a healthy middle. Yeah. And if you look at today in Canada, we have a real, it almost feels like an attack on the middle class. Sure. Like if you pay more at the gas pump, like you just look at the numbers. I just saw my my credit union teller who said, David, this is my last day because I can't afford to commute anymore from a nearby town 20 minutes away. Well, because it's cost too much to fill her tank. Wow. So this hits people hard. So these policies, these decisions impact people's lives. And so are they really going to empower citizens, or are they going to undermine citizens?
Can you speak to, and this is like one of the grayest areas for me, I find, growing up was what can I even do? How do I get involved? I don't know how. Like that was the process through. As I've gotten older, I've figured out kind of ways, and also talking, communicating, getting educated, reading, and those I think go without saying. Actually, maybe they need to be said. But are there any ways that for anyone who is watching, what can they do? How can they get involved? Is there places they can go?
I think they can do a ton. I just think there's an exciting list of what people can do. Yeah. I think the first thing they got to do is share this program. Yeah, if you hear, I mean this sincerely. If you believe that there are good things being talked about, and you want to help move forward the conversation, share it with a friend, talk with them. Yes. Okay, and then I think also, don't hesitate to speak up. You know that one of my past lives, I was an elected official, and I assure you that when people would call in on an issue, even if it was a half a dozen, 20 people, it made a huge impact, because people would look at it and say, wow, we're getting some real pushback. Now, the funny thing that's a little bit confusing today is, I was alluding to earlier, a lot of governments don't make decisions based on public policy, but it's more based on these kind of weird advisors that are always advising decision makers to go on that pole. Communications, like the so-called optics of the situation. Well, how does that serve people? You need to guide decisions on good principles. So what happens is, if citizens speak up, they actually have more power than they realize. And I think that's very exciting, but we've got to get the word out. People, I think, are in a huge information bubble, and I think that goes back to what Leon Fontaine was concerned about, is that people don't know the information. But if they do, we have enough confidence in Canadians that they'll come to the table and do something. That's where our hope is, beyond in the divine, I think.
Hope. That's what's at the heart of everything we do. Canada needs hope. The Return to Reason lineup of programs are just one way that we are reaching people all over the world with truth-driven content that honors their intelligence and presents knowledge with wisdom. Stay tuned to hear more about the ongoing development and growth of the Return to Reason platform. People, even children, have never been so confused about their identities. The politically correct narratives and information echo chambers have never been so divisive. You're watching today because you deeply care about this nation and the next generation. Together, we must confront any ideologies that replace fact with feelings and present lies as truth. Canada's future is worth speaking up for. The time to act is now. It's time to return to reason.
With this banner of Return to Reason, the several programs we have already going, and there's going to be more that's going to be added down the slate as we continue to build partnerships and find the right voices that fit what we're doing. But really, if you look across Canada, is that there's a whole that we're trying to fill in Canada. Like, I truly believe that, is that with where we're going and what we're doing, is that we're going to help empower voices to this nation to help keep our nation on track. And really, because we're in such a position with multiple TV channels, the fact that we've got a large online presence, building out our VOD platforms, is that this whole thing of return to reason, we are not to. Hope this doesn't come across arrogantly or braggy at all. But we are in a position where I almost feel if we don't utilize the tools that we have, is that we're doing our country and ourselves a disservice. Because as we continue to build out, but what we need though is, as people watch through Miracle Channel, through Corco, this essentially will take on its own life and the return to reason, where that will be its own brand if it's not already. Is that we need people to not just be fans of it, but as you said, tell people about it, share it, subscribe to it once a week. If you're on social media, follow us on social media, hit the share button, write comments, like all of those things, every single one of those things that people do help get the message out, even if you disagree. That's awesome. Let us know why, because the goal is we want to get conversations rolling and get people intrigued.
Do you remember when we were in Ottawa how much direction we got from replies and comments?
Tons.
Like, a lot of our day was people messaging us going, you should check this out. We heard about this. We saw this on another news feed. What are your thoughts? And so that was wild, but I loved the relationship, because I was going, these are real people who are watching, and all they have is this device. And all they can do is see this window and hope it's telling the truth. And so when they had a second perspective, which was ours, all week, like, I can't tell you, into the late hours of the night, thank you, like thousands of people messaging us. We couldn't keep up, and I kept trying to respond. But I remember thinking, this is how it's supposed to be. They're supposed to be able to have a voice. They're supposed to be able to talk to us, suggest to us. We're supposed to listen. And so that's where a lot of the fire in my gut, and David's gut, I know, came from. On our drive home from Ottawa, which was a very long drive across this beautiful nation, it was almost symbolic of realizing, as we're crossing the land of this nation, I was going, we gotta do something for it. We can't let this go. And that's what I want to do here. That's why I want people to comment so badly. Like, I want to hear their comments, and I don't care if you disagree. I want you to say, hey, what you said there was completely biased. Can you give me another angle? Sure, like, I'll try.
Well, I will never forget that time when you guys made that decision with Leon to pack it up and go to Ottawa.
That's great.
Because it wasn't a small decision. It took enormous effort, the whole entire team. And I remember that so well, because I was comparing what some of the media were saying going on in downtown Ottawa with your incredible reports on the ground, and you were chasing down the good, bad, and the ugly stories, and it was remarkable, the difference in truth. And I was so excited, because the response was like a tidal wave of interest, as you're saying, right? And it said, wow, you're onto something here, and the need for people to find that out, and the trust that you gain. I remember there was a media conference that the truckers had, and I think you were one of the only parties invited to cover it, because they were so tired of being misrepresented. Is that right?
Yes, that is right. But what I was going to say is that press conference, yes, that they were keeping out the legacy mainstream media out of the rooms, because there's a distrust already for them. But it got to the point when we were driving away, we literally handed it off to Michael and Nav as they were going to take over us, and we're 2 hours outside the city. I get a phone call, because you spend 2 weeks building connections and relationships, and they're already leary of who do we trust, who do we not trust. And then they tell us about a press conference they're doing live in an hour. So we call Michael and Nav and get over there type of thing. And we're driving away, and this is kind of like, it felt like your big break in a sense. But then what we found out was, it took Michael and Nav just a little bit to get over, because they're still getting used to everything, is that the press conference was held up, and everyone was there, but they were waiting to start for us and our team to show up and get there, because they wanted to make sure. But that I attribute that to unintentionally, but when we were there, we tapped into this stream, a nerve that was in Canada. And then you're talking about the comments. Is that I remember walking down the street reading comments, and that would actually dictate kind of what we're looking for. People would say thoughts and ideas, and we're trying to
tell us literally directions. Hey, go to this this road, and we'd be like, okay, we saw another live there. Go. And so we go. And you're right. It dictated.
Hundreds of comments, sometimes within half hour, 40. So anyways, all that to say though, there are people who do care about having their voice heard, but people maybe have felt defeated or felt like I don't know what to do. Is that partner with people who can help your voice be heard. Like I think that's such an important thing.
So I do want to mark this that memory as a historic memory of the program and vision of Return to Reason.
Yeah.
Because on the program Leaders on the Frontier, you know that I have a relationship with some of the best health officials in the world, period. They wrote what's called the Great Barrington Declaration, which basically said, hey, we need to remember that we need to use best healthcare practices. We should not be doing a lockdown. That's not good from a health point of view for many reasons. And there were officials, and one of them is a friend, Dr. Martin Kulldorff from Harvard University. And in my conversation with him on Leaders on the Frontier, he said something really remarkable. He said, what we learned during the COVID lockdowns was the incredible control different nefarious actors have about information. And what was so amazing was the impact that the trucker convoy had in terms of not just Canada, but the world. And I said, what did you just say? And he said, and you can see, look it online. I encourage the audience to look at this. And Martin said, yes, those truckers were very well informed. They obviously did a lot of listening to information as they were going along the road. And they followed the science to Ottawa. And this is in complete contrast with so many others. That was a remarkable statement. And so in some significant way, this is all interconnected with Return to Reason. Isn't that a remarkable insight?
Absolutely.
It really is. If you look at that period of time, you know, former Governor Sarah Palin was in Calgary, I believe, a number of nights ago. Actually, Leighton Grey, I believe, did a program or a show with her. Again, I didn't make that, but one of my friends was telling me that she made a comment saying that that convoy led the way for change across the entire world. Not Canada, but the world. Of course, Canada. We saw several things. We saw multiple provinces all start to drop their mandates. Right after you saw a change in the Conservative Party. I believe Quebecers were about to be taxed if they weren't vaccinated. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was the case. That changed. So many things happened as a result of that. You saw a change and almost this empowering of people to be like, I'm not alone in terms of how I think or what I think. And I think it's important to clarify is that I think us three all hold the same view in terms of we're truth seekers. I think we talked about tribalism a little bit ago. I think people are too used to having, you've got people that have a view over here, and then you have people that have a view over here, and it's almost just to counter what the other side has. And we're not interested in just having a counter opinion or an extreme opinion at all. Like, we're genuinely trying to find the truth and find the path to that and willing to find a way. And if people can resonate with that and they're along that same journey, well, this is the place that they're going to want to commit to and be a part of.
And what I like about the theme of seeking truth is that this is a nonpartisan discussion. All three parties and many more have failed, and none of them are perfect. But if we can seek the truth, that's great. And I love the idea that compels us as citizens. Everyone as Canadians to ask what they can do, as you were asking earlier, Jeremy. And you recall what Leon Fontaine said. He said, some people would say that silence is golden, and he'd say, no, I think it's yellow. So that's a challenge to everybody to say, what can you do to move things forward for the next generation?
More of this discussion in just a minute. How did we get here? How have we become so divided? Trendy narratives have little substance, but simple truths and the power of standing shoulder to shoulder will outlast this toxic cancel culture. How can we unite around better ideas that will serve all Canadians and return Canada to a place of human flourishing, freedom, and inspiring potential? You. The answer is you. The best part? You are not alone in your thinking. The Return to Reason lineup of programs dares to courageously tackle subjects with facts and context. We champion debate. We celebrate your individual right to hold your opinion, to make your own choices, and to change your mind. Return to Reason, the best is yet to come.
David, can you can probably say this better than Jeremy and I. Can you maybe tell us a bit about the importance of the media in revolving to a democracy and kind of their role as a pillar? Because essentially what we're moving into and where we're going is that we're going to be a part of the media to be a voice that's going to help champion what is being talked about and issues and all those things. So maybe just tell us a bit about the
Well,
importance of that.
the media is just critical. And if you think of our country, part of the genius of it is that it has these different pillars, as you've alluded to.
Yeah.
And the media is a very important one. And the principles that have undergirded the media are profound, namely that they're supposed to be independent, they speak truth to power, they seek, what is it again? Oh yeah, the truth. And they look at the facts, and they serve their audience. Yeah. And we all have a bias of sorts, but no, I'm talking about something more profound, and that is that today we have a lot of parties in power that want to control the media. Right now we have some 2,000 media outlets in our country that are funded by the government. Now that's a huge problem.
Yeah. Can you explain why?
Well, it's a problem because you want to be independent, and you know, it's not just simply the big outlets that are funded now by the government, which I would never have believed would have happened. But it's the small papers, and they all have stories to tell, and
who a lot are on shoestring budgets.
They are,
and it's tight. And I think it goes back to the mentality of maybe you think twice about biting the hand that feeds you in a sense. And that's not saying you always want to bite the government, but the citizens and media are there to hold accountable to what government is doing.
That's right. And the media have a tough job, so I don't want to make it all black and white, but the reality is that you as a citizen, another action you can do is support media that matters, that you believe in.
Totally.
Subscribe to them, like pay for that news service. So you can support them in some measure. So media is critical, because without information, you can't have a democracy. And without a democracy, we are something else. And in history, it's forms of totalitarianism, and it never ends well. Because we don't have peace then, because we'll be fighting with each other. You don't have the rule of law, and no one should be above the rule of law. Not even the king or queen or the prime minister. But we're in an age where all those things are arguably being undermined, and people need to wake up to that.
Why do you think it ever started that media was funded by government? Like, what's that connection? Well,
there was a report that was done a few years ago by the current Trudeau administration, and there's a breakdown of the economic model. Like you alluded to the idea that there's a lot of media that don't have enough money. Well, in light of that scenario, there are members of the media that were going to the government for help, but also the government saw that as an opportunity, those in power, to say, well, if we give them money, we can help control them. So what happens is, if you receive the money, you have to engage in an agreement that you have to cover certain topics around diversity, inclusion, equity, all that stuff in a certain way. That's not right. Those are very debatable topics. I mean, that's silly.
The nature of them funding is to give an opportunity for them to do their job and investigate and be journalists.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're taking that away from them the moment you say, we'll do that, but you have to say this.
So just to play devil's advocate on that, would the argument be the reason why they do that is to help keep alive a lot of these in terms of this redistribution of funds, or to help keep a healthy media? Like, that might be the other side of without us, a lot of these guys would be going away anyway, so let's help them.
Absolutely.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why is that the internet comes along, and everybody was excited about the internet, that this would help free speech, but there were different actors trying to control the internet. I mean, that's the story of power, right? They want to control what you see. But in that context, everybody started moving to find their news online, and it was all, quote, free. But the irony is that they wanted your information. You know, they wanted your consumer information, your data. But at the same time, they online advertising, you know, came into its own. The rest is history. And all of a sudden, you have traditional media really struggling with how to get its revenue. And the government never really dealt with the issue that you have to have even the online people pay for news. They were riding on the traditional media, so it wasn't really fair. So that's why you have this whole debate going on right now.
Well, that's even led to bills that have come through, like C11 and even C18. Right?
That's right.
And it's interesting, I'm not sure if people are very familiar with C18, but it's essentially, the Coles notes of it is that big media tech companies that are using pieces of news that is produced by Canadian outlets, is that they'll have to pay for it. And actually, a result of that, which is because I get pretty much all of my news online through different platforms. Is that Meta, I believe they announced, was it this morning?
Today.
It's today. They announced that they're no longer going to be using news within Canada. So a result of C-18, and that's them flexing their muscles, trying to make the government bend a little bit.
And so it backfired.
For sure. Yeah. So you're going to have these kind of controversial issues come up, which really make it an even muddier waters, I should say, for citizens to be able to, what are they getting? What information are they getting?
Now it's blocked,
We're all challenged to think critically, and I know that's a commonly used phrase, but you really have to take everything with a grain of salt, including what we say.
Yeah.
Like you know, we're not afraid of that, but look and do your due diligence, because honestly, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, you know?
Well, we've thrown out the term a couple times, find truth, and maybe that can be relative depending on people's, like I believe that there are certain absolute truths, obviously you have to have, but I think we're really trying to say, you hit on it about thinking critically and due diligence, and really the idea is that if people don't know where they stand, or if I don't know where I stand, I'm trying to hear other people's opinions on maybe both sides of an argument. I'm trying to find a variety of opinions as opposed to just going to one area to confirm my bias. And I believe I've got a brain. I believe citizens, people have a brain that if they hear this, then they can kind of figure out where do I land in this whole, whole area.
And don't forget, like, there's room for common sense. A lot of people have common sense. I was just in Lethbridge and nearby at a fast food restaurant, which probably I shouldn't have been at. We're two older gentlemen, and they were delightful. We were talking about a myriad of issues, and they just had common sense. And they said, you know, we don't have those degrees, but what we see isn't good. Like, I just filled up my pickup, and I could barely afford it. And then it also gets to the topic of a lot of these things are common sense, in the sense that when you hear about decisions, what direction are they pointing? And what kind of vision of society? And I want to give you a quick example. The whole sexualization of children in schools, does that add to their education? And is that appropriate? Like, it's not, I don't mean it from a tolerant point of view. Of course, we welcome and respect everybody. But, sorry, you don't own my children.
There's a limit to that. Oh, obviously. In my opinion, there's a limit to, like, you welcome and respect people, but I don't, because I accept you, I don't have to agree with you.
Exactly.
And I'll even go this far. Even if I agreed with you on every single point, you don't have the right to talk to my kid about it.
Oh, exactly.
Period. Or force
but this is where the divide is, and this is where something a lot of citizens don't realize. There's a divide among people in our country. Some assume that you as a parent have that prerogative. Your children are your children, and you're the primary responsible person to guide them in their education. But not everybody thinks that way. There's another worldview, and I know this sounds nuts and hard to believe, but I've talked with them. They believe that the children are really the wards of the state, and the state raises your child. Thank you for giving birth to your children, but you know what? We're going to take it from here in the school, and we're going to guide them. And that's a radical philosophy, and you've got to call that out. Is that good?
President Joe Biden actually said that in his Twitter, and Elon Musk responded. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
So he essentially said something along the lines, and he used the word, "These are our children," and in his phrasing. And then Elon Musk responded and said, "Actually, they're our children."
Exactly.
The parents.
Yeah. So that's a seminal example of the debate. So we've all got to listen carefully. So who's pointing in what direction, and is that good?
Well, even just another, like, I won't say the world leader that it was, but a cringy moment of a world leader that said, "Parents, can you please leave the room? I want to talk to your children through the television on one of this thing."
No kidding.
And
wow.
Anyways,
I didn't know that.
I feel like when you have that mentality, it just shows that this toxic idea of going through about it, and it really, if you wanted to if we don't have the time to dive deep into that now, but it really is coming to the dismantling of the family.
They're going after the
family is no matter, I said this a while ago, no matter how big you go in terms of, we look at nation, we look at states or provinces and communities, and then what makes up the community, the heart of all of that is the family. And there is an absolute attack trying to change and dismantle what that family is. But when you see that, and history will tell us that, when you see the dismantling of those families, the roles and all that, is that your nation is going to feel the effects of it.
Exactly.
And eventually, you're going to start to crumble.
All those things are being undermined by some parties. And that's where the debate should be. Why are you trying to undermine marriage, family, community, like shared values of citizenship, right? Being involved, helping each other out. That's how you build a caring society. But instead, no, it's saying, no, the state should run everything. And that's the route to a caring society. Well, is that really? No, we should be working with the government. But if it's too big, then you kind of undermine everything else. So that, I think that's where our country's at. Which fork in the road are we going to take?
So David, as host and visionary behind Leaders of the Frontier, what do you want to see out of it? What is a goal that you have? Where do you see it going? Maybe talk to us about what.
Well, I am just so honored and excited to be involved in it on behalf of Frontier. And my hope is that the audience will it will serve the audience, that it will elevate the discussion. People will be blown away and say, wow, I didn't know that, or I agree with that, or I don't agree with it. And I'm going to let them know, but that they're sharing it with their friends. It's moving the conversation forward. And who knows, it would compel people to actually do something in terms of action, like run for their school board, get involved in their church, right? Like, that's all part of civic society. But people need to be involved as citizens. And again, silence is not golden.
Absolutely.
If you're watching this today, now is the time to act. The success of Return to Reason will be when viewers like you feel compelled to share it. Never underestimate the power of knowledge, and don't let fear stop you from starting conversations. Canada is worth standing up for. Families and kids are worth fighting for. This is our nation. We are proud to call it home. Now is the time to engage. Become an RTR Insider and get the latest content and exclusive info. We've made it so easy to share. Simply forward an email. Follow, like, and subscribe on all your favorite platforms. This is the power of the public square. Comment and send us feedback. You can have a voice.
I think it's also important to stress the duty and responsibility I feel that we have. I think a lot of times that's not talked about. But as you just mentioned, we've got a duty to get involved. We have a responsibility for our neighbors, for other citizens, for our future generations, to get involved and to do that. And no matter what religion may be.
I want to add one more thing, David, and I'm sorry, I could talk about this for a long time with you guys, but I hope that people also feel inspired to kind of stand up for their country. I think that's a little bit of a thing that we're too weak on in our country is patriotism. And I mean healthy patriotism. Like that's part of celebrating who we are as a community, and that's a good thing. I also believe that I want this to be an opportunity to inspire citizens through Frontier. There's been a lot of research done on really good solutions to a lot of the big challenges we face. And that's from on healthcare to all kinds of issues that are important. There are solutions, and we can learn about them internationally. So if we can move that forward, gosh, I'm really happy.
We do. We talked a bit about what you're visioning and what's going to happen with Frontier. I know for Jer and I, for Citizen, like I think the sky's the limit for us in terms of, like, when you're having conversation, we have conversations every day, but try to bring a platform where people can come to us and just follow along. They might have the same curiosities that we do. They might wonder the same things or the why. We're trying to chase those down, but then also we're going to have great people on to be a part of those discussions. I believe that as we develop and as we continue to grow, that we're going to be a landing spot for people who are running for office, political office, to have these real conversations. I can see us doing live events and these type of things, and not just Jer and I, but to the broader Return the Reason family. So again, we're going to be a landing spot that if people want to know what's going on in the country, is that they can come to Return the Reason and trust that we're going to be chasing down the truth.
We believe and know that when you're part of a nation, is that there is power in being a citizen. And I think that has been lost amongst people. But what does it mean to actually be a citizen? The citizen is the one who holds the keys and the power.
And the government serves the citizen.
Exactly. And often that gets lost when people don't know the meaning of their citizenship.
It wasn't until there was some serious provoking happening in our system with COVID that woke me up, at least, where I went, okay, I got to figure out what these things are here for.
It's a 10,000-foot view, but that would be my opinion of that.
So to me, that's a very exciting vision, because what you're really doing is inviting people to get involved as a community of caring Canadians who want to help strengthen our culture and our level of thinking to create a better country.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're doing, and that's a good thing that's long overdue in our country, isn't it?
Yeah, no, you're so right.
I can't speak for Leighton specifically, but Leighton and Grey Matter, the guy's a brilliant man and constitutional lawyer by trade, and everything else. The guy just seems to never sleep.
I know. Every time
I can't speak for him, but I know he's going to continue bringing on just amazing guests, having those conversations in the same tone of furthering these challenging conversations that people are wondering about.
Joining now from his home studio, here's Leighton Grey with a special message for you, all Canadians who care.
Thanks, guys. Great to be with you with the Return to Reason crew. I wish I could be there in person, but it just didn't work out with my schedule this time. I'm looking forward to next time. I wanted to share with you how meaningful it is for me to be part of Return to Reason and to continue the legacy that was established by the late Leon Fontaine. I had the pleasure to be interviewed by Leon twice and also interviewed him on my show. And it was incredible to see his commitment, his level of commitment to truth in media, and to see a man of just tremendous faith and how inspirational that was. And it really inspired me to bring Grey Matter to Miracle Channel, and through them to take the show even within less than a year to a whole new level that honestly I couldn't have imagined. I really see Grey Matter fitting squarely within Leon's concept of spirit contemporary. And I think that this is so important in terms of the work of Return to Reason, particularly in the context of the assault upon Christianity and Christian values that we're seeing legislatively through this federal government. Most recently, we've had changes to the criminal code impacting hate speech and things like conversion therapy. And more recently, we've had this censorship through Bills C-11 and C-18 that are impacting or attempting to impact our ability to reach our audience. So I really think that the work that we're doing right now with Return to Reason is so vital. And I think if Leon were here, he would really agree. And I hope and I pray that he would be very proud of the work that all of us are doing together to carry on the great legacy of Return to Reason at Miracle Channel.
How can people get involved?
I think just I keep coming back to the individual because that's really all it is. Our country is a 30+ million individuals who collectively
40 million.
I know that's right. Here we're 40.
We're growing at the fastest rate we've ever,
which is wild.
Grown, I believe.
Record immigration, that's historic.
Right. Okay.
Which is wild. And so it's the individuals who come together. What does Michael Jackson say? You look at the man in the mirror. Good song. But the thing is, it starts there. It starts with the individual taking complete ownership, taking understanding their values. That's one thing I find is if you don't know why you feel the way you feel, you should find out why. Have you ever felt something going, why is that bugging me?
Yeah.
I'll sometimes just explore and go, what is it that bugs me about that? Follow that, figure it out. Figure out where your values came from, because it came from your mom and your dad most likely, or whoever raised you, is where a lot of your values came from, which is usually how you vote, which is usually how you raise your kids, and depends on how you pick your school, but that's what it comes down to. Know why you believe what you believe. Almost every person I found that I had a very healthy discussion with in COVID didn't have a clue why they were doing what they were doing.
Interesting.
Even when COVID was done, I often would ask one of the questions when the masks were still being worn in a lot of places, even though they weren't mandated anywhere. I decided to take it on my own to just ask a question. I wasn't telling them. I said, hey, why is it you're still wearing that mask? That's all I would say. And they would go, well, because it's keeping me safe. And then I'd say to them, well, did you know that after 20 odd minutes, hospitals teach you that they become dangerous because your own breath bacteria is now going into your lungs? And they go, what? And almost 9 out of 10 times, they literally in that moment took it off. And it's not even about the mask issue. I don't care about it. What it showed me was that they had never put any thought into why they're doing something daily that's literally on their face, covering their mouth and affecting them. And that's what I think we can do. We can know why we believe what we believe, and we can play a part, and we can comment and talk and share and like and just get involved. I think that's the biggest way we can do it.
Very good.
I think just to add to the, I guess, how people can get involved is just to even talk to the audience a little bit, is that you guys know us as we're on the channel of Miracle Channel, and that really has been around for a while, and that's grown now into where we've got multiple different brands. You've got Corco going on, we've got Return to Reason, we're building out these different platforms to reach people ultimately with lead people to Jesus ultimately. And there's a lot of different strategies. But one thing I want to say is that if you're watching or you're joining us today, is that as we continue to walk this out and build out this Return to Reason platform, it's vital for our country. And you're just saying, I want to get involved, but I don't know how to get involved. I would simply just say, even email us. The email will be on the screen. Call us and say, I want to help. How can I help? And we will be able to get in connection with you and find ways to connect with people. Obviously, being able to donate towards what we do operate on donations. We're so thankful for people who give. That's a big part of where we're going, because we're not in this to profit. We're in this to make our country great and get that back. So anyways, that's a couple things I would do. Support our shows, go on social media, tell your friends about it. Social media is huge, and that's going to be probably the best way to continue to help us grow, is by sharing, following us, liking the videos through YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or whatever avenues you may be on. Those are just several of the ways. I might be forgetting.
I would even say, like, if there's a local issue you're dealing with in your area, I guess I can talk to cameras or what. I hope that people feel like, hey, send it to us. Maybe we can do a story. Maybe we can talk about it on the frontier. Like, who knows? But like, that's a doorway that they can do something.
Absolutely, and subscribe to the newsletter. I think that's just a great information 100%. Source.
We're going to do that. There's a bright future for Canada. I really feel that way deep in my heart. And every time I do get into these discussions, I leave feeling happier, brighter, with a vision.
Well, you know, Jeremy, I'm asked that question all the time. So, David, what do you think is going to be the future of our country? Because there's a lot of people that are very understandably concerned about our country, and they're very proud of our country. And I always say the answer is simple. What do you say? You're going to determine the future of our country as a citizen. That's the answer.
Well, I think that's a good way to end, to be honest. That's a great word. Is thank you so much for joining us. You guys, as David was just saying, what do you say? You've got a say in the future of our country. Be watching for all the updates and where we're going. Thank you so much for your support. We're excited to continue to build this. We believe the best is yet to come. We'll see you guys later.
You are an essential part of Return to Reason's success. Visit returntoreason.tv right now to find out more and to sign up to become an insider. The Return to Reason lineup of programs dares to courageously tackle subjects with facts and context. We champion debate. We celebrate your individual right to hold your opinion, to make your own choices, and to change your mind. Return to Reason, the best is yet to come.